everybody, welcome to Pushing Pixels. I'm your host, Sam Mestas. First of all, I'm sorry I haven't done a tutorial in a while. Work is insane because of mergers and things, and I just haven't had enough time to do some stuff. I've been doing a lot of Photoshop work, but nothing fine art wise, which is kind of why I stopped and decided I was going to throw myself into a painting. And some of you know, some of you don't know, I do a lot of photorealistic paintings a la Bert Monroy here. I'll close that guy there. A la Bert Monroy. And he's a great artist to follow, and I really like his work, so I pay close attention to him and kind of do similar types of paintings that he does, which are light interpretive art. Back to Photoshop, because I wanted to show you what I started and what I'm working on. Let's get into there. There it is. So anyway, I started working on this awning, and so far just this awning alone is 2 gigs, and that's something I did not set out to do, and I'm not a big fan of that at all. But it just sort of kept happening that way. I kept needing more and more layers, and before I knew it, I had a 2 gig painting. I don't recommend it if you can get rid of it. If you can smash layers, do that. It'll speed up your process. But here's how it kind of started. So I'm just going to show you the front here real quick. And I'm going to start at the bottom of the, and it usually just starts with a base layer. Let me zoom in on that a little bit. And this was a base layer with a gradient. Usually everything in these photorealistic paintings start as, there's almost always a gradient. There's usually never not a gradient. Light just falls across things differently, so always a gradient. And as you can see, I've already started highlighting and recoloring and darkening and dodging and burning and things of that nature. Usually I leave my base layer alone, but I started going crazy a little bit. On top of that, we have some black, and I got it set to overlay. And I've also applied a mask with a special filter on it. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But this is a trick I use a lot. I mean, if you look up and down my layers right here, you can see I've used it quite a few times. So black to add a little bit of color and bring it to life. On top of that, there is another layer of white splotches, really, and I got the opacity cranked down. And then on top of that, there is a black layer that is filled with a texture, and you can kind of see this mesh right there, and it's not really that good, and quite honestly, it's really not working that well. But my heart was in the right place. Oh, you can see I got a little air right there. Must have got crazy with a brush. Okay, on top of that, we have another layer of clouds, and with a mask on it. And then on top of that, these ribbons, or this piping, start to come into play, and I'll just start turning on all these layers here so you can kind of see how they go together. And as the piping comes into play, there's a drop shadow underneath. I'm just going to turn on all this piping real quick so you can kind of see how this works. And where are they at? There's the last few right there. And there's some grime and stuff like that. There's some more highlights, and finally the shadows, and a set of highlights grouped together. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more so you can sort of see that. Let me turn that back off so you can see. So there's some more highlights you can see, and then I have a stain that's going to be, this is stained right there, so I built a little stain, and again with the same layer mask and the same little trick I use to clean those up. There's the top highlight. I got some more drop shadows. Oh, that's the this little black line right here. Let me zoom in a little bit. There's a thread here. I made a brush. I can even zoom in a little bit tighter. I made a brush so I can do the stitching on this awning. And then underneath that, there is a black line, sort of to depict the crease where the thread goes. The thread's also dropping a shadow, if I recall. Yeah, it's beveled, and it's also dropping a shadow. So then I got this black line under there, and that kind of helps show you where the crease is. Turn that back on. Let's go back up. Keep going, and there's some more thread work over here on the right side. There's the right side thread. You can see it right there, kinda. right there, and there's also a drop shadow underneath it, probably a little bit too dark. Turn that down just a little bit, and then I have a left side thread, which is going down there. Same brush, and I have a little drop shadow there, also a little bit too hot. And then the thread for the piping, that's all the way underneath here. I'll zoom in a little bit, and then you can see the thread pop up right there. You can see this thread going all the way around. Okay, now that's a lot of crap. There's tons of noise and stuff like that. But when you back off of it, you really sort of get the gist of how these elements come together. Just for the front of this, I think I'm looking at 40 layers. So normally that's a pretty thick painting for me for just one element. But you know, it needed it. I had to depict all this stuff and sort of get it happening. You can even see my little brush mark actually works there for me. So that's the front end on how that works. There's also, I also have some side work. I've also done the sides, and I will turn that on, and so we can see that. There's the whole side right there. Same sort of deal. Haven't quite finished it off yet, but you can sort of still see the same thing. Piping. There's the side of the awning. There is the there's the thread going up, and this is a shadow actually from the building that's falling over. There's some more piping work to do. There's a lot of cleanup work, but also you can see the fabric, and I built it exactly the same way. There's the top of it. You can see the shadow falling over the top. There's an awning support bar right there, and that's kind of built the exact same way as everything else. It's really a few layers, more than you would think actually. There's the basic shape, and so there's the basic shape. It's got some dodging and burning, and I use the speckle brushes. This again is a gradient, and I actually built a gradient. I just filled the whole thing with a gradient, so I didn't have to start working on the highlights and crap like that. I can always come back in later and touch that up. There's some grime and dirt. You can barely see it. Let's see if I can turn this up a little bit. It's subtle, but it's there. There's grime and dirt there. I wonder if it's at 52. If I turn it up, you can kind of see it some more there. Let me turn it off and on again. And again, that's with the sort of speckle brush. Turn that back down to where it was. And then on top of that, I believe there is some noise. I used some white noise and also put a mask on it as usual. Then these little screws or fasteners come into play here, and those are just circles with a bevel emboss on it. There's a pillow emboss. There's some rust that's underneath this screw. It's like dirt or grime that's sort of dripped down, and let's see if we can zoom in a little tighter on that even. You can barely see it, but it is there. Which one is it? Right there. So, and that's how I did that. And then there's also a left side of the awning, which is the back side. Gave it a little thickness. Needs cleaning up. It needs the piping added and stuff like that. Again, more grime. How many layers is it? There's 4 layers there. There's a base layer, which is just that solid color. And then on top of that, there's a grime layer of black and, you know, distressed dodges and burns. On top of that, there is a noise layer with a mask, and then on top of that, there's one more layer of dodges, and that's with that stuff set at different blend modes. And that's kind of how I build all this element. This awning took about 3 days to build. These paintings, like I said, are super complicated. But I wanted to show you the little trick I use to sort of create dirt and crap like that. And I'm actually just going to, put it right on the front end here. I'm going to do something real quick. Nothing spectacular. I'm just going to grab a brush, just a round brush. Yeah, that'll work. Actually, let's say I wanted to, let me grab a sort of speckle brush. There we go. Let's just say I wanted to put some grime on this thing, like so. And I did that on a blank layer. And but I really want to disperse this. I only want a little of this showing. I just want a hint of it. So I'll do that on a layer, and then I will apply a mask. And on that mask layer with black and white set, this is a nice little trick. I use this trick all the time. I apply clouds, and now that will mask out a lot of this stuff that I don't need. And then I can sort of start playing with the opacity a bit. You know, and now you can see I get a little grime on there, and erase out the stuff I don't want, keep the stuff I do, dodge and burn some more if I need to. But that actually is a trick I use all the time to make these elements. I mean, you can see how many times I've used it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, it's just loaded. Each one of these layers has that trick in it somewhere, or one of these groups, and it's a great way to mask out a lot of garbage and stuff you don't need. I mean, you can even see that doesn't look so horrible, the thing I just did. So anyway, that's kind of how I start building these elements, and then I just keep going. After this, I would take this entire image and I would save it to one layer. I would compress it all. I'll keep everything separated still, but I will merge visible, holding down your Alt key, and whatever's visible, Alt, merge, visible, and it's going to take everything that's visible and merge it to one layer. And that will be the layer I drag over to my composite layer, because I'm not going to build my entire painting in one project. There's no way. This thing will crash like crazy. So yeah, keep all the elements separate. I'll build lamps separate and stuff like that. In fact, I wanted to show you the lamp I was going to use, and I may have another use for it here real quick if this machine lets me do my deal here. Let me see if I can find it. It's in my engineering folder. This lamp right here. This lamp is going to go on the wall over here somewhere if I decide to finish this painting real quick. And this is a project I actually built for another project, but that didn't pan out. And as it turns out, it's going to work perfect right here. And you can see these things get really, really complicated. And if you start breaking out, first of all, we're looking at the composite. So if I turn it on, you can see this thing really starts to come apart. Oh, look at, there's all the decorative elements right there. There's a lot of stuff going on in this painting. Holy crap. I got this X thing. I got all these highlights. It's dropping a shadow underneath. There's a bunch of dodges and burns. There's some, you can see the inner frame of this light. These posts are probably identical. They are. I actually just used the same thing twice. Who cares? Oh, I built it twice. There's the part where you can open it up to get to the bulb if you need to change it. So let me turn that back on and turn those finials back on. Some glazing right there. I wouldn't venture to guess what this thing is. I would be willing to bet this thing is probably 60 or 70 layers. Oh, it's easily that. And there's a bump map, which is something I'm going to show you guys later on how to add texture to elements and stuff like that. But anyway, this lamp I'll compress it down to one element again and put it in a master painting. Anyway, so that's kind of how I build these things. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I think I'm going to chronicle this bench painting, because I think it's going to be an interesting painting. It needs some color correcting and stuff, but there's a lot of great things going on here. I'm really excited about this thing, about building this grate and putting things in there like that. Plus there's something going on back there, which will be really interesting. I doubt this will make the full painting. It'll probably be close. The painting will probably be closer to, you know, up here somewhere, because I usually paint at 24 by 18. So it'll probably be more like that. We'll get some stuff in there though and make it look really, really cool. There's a lot of interesting things here. All right. Hey, I'm done talking. Thanks for tuning in, and come back again. Have a good night.